It has been a long and winding road for Canadian bobsleigh since their gold medal performance in Nagano. The team of Luters and McEachran now represent two teams, with brakeman Dave McEachran moving to the driver's seat, ready to begin his World Cup career here in Calgary. And he'll face off against his former driver, Pierre Luters, who defends his two-man World Championship and 1997 Calgary four-man victory here today, the first event in the '98 World Cup of Bobsleigh. Hello everyone, and welcome to CTV Sportsnet's coverage of the Corel Word Perfect Bobsleigh Tour, our first two events of the season coming right up from Canada Olympic Park in Calgary, the two-man event and the four-man event. Canada Olympic Park, of course, the site of the 1988 Olympics, and we're back here 10 years later. It's a regular stop on the World Tour. There is Canada's Olympic gold medalist, Pierre Luters, getting set to go. He'll go up against his former teammate, Dave McEachran, as well. And joining me, a man who is a pioneer in Canadian bobsledding, a veteran of 4 Olympics and 22 World Cup medals, Chris Laurie.
There's a very competitive field here today, Jerry. We have all 3 Olympic medalists here, including Canada's Pierre Luters. But the real story is Dave McEachran. He was in the back seat to Pierre Luters at the Olympic Games in Nagano, where they won the gold medal. Dave has only started driving the bobsled a month ago. He's had only 30 trips down this track. He's got great challenges ahead of him today. I had a chance to talk to Dave.
Expectations of the World Cup is very much a see what happens sort of night. We're going to go out there and try to start to the best of our ability. I unfortunately have been nursing a hamstring since the 6th of November, a week from tonight. And so I'm hoping it's going to hold up. I have the most experienced brakeman on the national team behind me, and I'm also glad that he's shown the confidence in me and my ability, and I think together we're going to make a pretty powerful team.
I think Dave McEachran is going to have a very challenging day in front of him. I don't know if he'll make the podium, but surely the favorite's got to be Pierre Luters. He has won 5 gold medals on this track already, but I think Pierre may be a little bit tired from sharing his gold medal experience.
Well, the summer, it's pretty hard to explain after coming off an Olympic win, and particularly in a sport where Canada hasn't won an Olympic medal in 34 years. Was a pretty important summer. A lot of people, young and old, wanted to see what an Olympic medal looks like, and I tried to give everyone the opportunity that I could to be able to touch an Olympic medal, hold it, feel it, do whatever with it that they wanted. And I think that's very important, is being able to share that with everyone in Canada.
But right now, more important business at hand, visualizing what's going to take place here in Pierre Luters' mind. He's set to go, and so are we. Back with more in just a few moments. CTV Sportsnet's coverage of the Corel Word Perfect World Bobsleigh Tour is brought to you by Visa. All you need. Back at Canada Olympic Park for the first 2 World Cup events of the season, the Visa World Cup circuit. We'll have the two-man event and the four-man event. First up, the two-man event. Have a look at the standings from last year. Pierre Lueders, of course, winning the gold medal at Nagano. We finished first in the point standings, along with Gunther Huber, who also tied him for the gold medal in Nagano as well. Let's take a look now at this track here in Calgary and how it shapes up. It was the host of the 1988 Olympics, and here we are in the World Cup circuit.
Calgary track on the technical side is probably in the middle of the road. It's a very safe track. You don't see a lot of crashes on this track, particularly at the events like at the World Cup level.
And now here's what you like to see. If you never take a tour on a World Cup bobsleigh track, this is the next best thing. Chris, take us through this course.
What you see here is pretty well what the driver sees, but not only does he see what's in front of him, but he's also feeling all of the changes in pressure through the corners. Now here is the top of the track. It's very flat, so you're trying to sustain the momentum that you've gained at the start. This is corner 4. First corner, we get a lot of pressure. It's very steep at this part, so you want to maintain your speed now, and you have to be very smooth in the transitions here. Corner 7 into corner 8, you want a nice smooth transition, and out of corner 8, you want to come right down the right-hand side going into Kreisel. Otherwise, you lose a lot of speed if you're late into Kreisel. Kreisel, a big, long left-hander. You want to come out of there early, down the middle into 10. Hopefully, you've gained a lot of speed at this point. And again, nice smooth transitions through the bottom corner, through the bottom part of the track, through the finish corner, and in the finish.
And if you're not sick to your stomach by now, or at least dizzy if that's your first time, then you should be. All right, here's Canada 2, our first team of the event. This is Dave McEachern of Charlottetown, now from Calgary, Alberta, and Jack Pick, his brakeman. McEachern just learning to drive. This should be interesting. The start of Dave McEachern and Jack Pick. What do you think there, Chris?
Well, Dave has got to get himself comfortable at the driver's position pushing. Dave is a very strong crew pusher. He slipped a little bit there at the start, but we'll see his loading. Normally the drivers will leave one hand on the push bar, reach across, and load in the sled. There he put two hands. That could be very dangerous. He could slip.
So what's his idea behind doing it that way, do you think? Just inexperience? Or
I think he's just a little bit uncomfortable. You can see here Dave is probably transitioned from 6 to 7. Dave is probably getting a little bit behind the sled right now because it's a new experience for him. He's probably not gone down the track at this speed before. So he's a little bit behind. The pressure is controlling the sled.
Is that the hardest thing for a new driver, is to try to control the sled under these conditions?
In the corners, there are pressure points through every corner, and the experienced drivers know how to work the pressure and have a nice straight line through the corners.
Dave McEachern slightly off the pace right now. This is heat number 1, and you can see he's in second spot at this point, but he's more than 1 second off the pace, and so that will show later.
For a driver of that level of experience, that's perfectly natural for him to be in that position right now.
Another look right here.
You can see as he goes into corner 8, he probably lets it run a little bit too high, and then the sled will fall down because it loses pressure and come across and hit the wall. Comes across, hits the wall, so they'll have difficulty setting himself up on the right-hand side going into Kreisel. Now you see there, he lets the pressure push him a little bit too high going into Kreisel.
Well, look at the look on his face. Is he disappointed, happy? What do you think?
I think Dave has just got a little bit better of understanding of what it really entails being a driver.
The next team, this is Switzerland 1, Reto Gucci and Guido Acklin. Let's have a look here. Reto Gucci, Switzerland 1, on the course now.
On the initial hit there, I think Guido was a little bit too bent over. And these guys have been working together a long time, and they have pretty consistently competitive pushes.
So we look again, when you say bent over, what's the advantage or disadvantage there?
When you first push off the block, you want to be in a good technical position to get the sled moving as quick as possible, as fast as possible.
So he was a little too low.
His body position wasn't optimal for being explosive out of the block.
Reto Gucci, third in the two-man event here last year, 7th overall in World Cup points. He turns 33 on Christmas Day. A great present here would be a win, obviously.
A little bit too hard off of corner 8 there. His back end slid down. The sled wasn't very stable going down the straightaway into Kreisel.
His interval time, though, is the fastest so far.
Reto's a very experienced driver. He's always at the top of this field.
6th in the Olympics, and he's moved into first place right here by half a second with this run.
Watch him here into corner 8. You want to watch the back end of the sled, nice and stable, no sideways movement, but he steers a little bit too hard off of there, and the pressure will push the back end sideways off the corner.
This is Germany 1 now. Christoph Lange and Markus Zimmermann. Lange is 36 years old, 4th in the two-man event here last year. Let's watch them as they get set.
Christoph Lange, of course, one of the most powerful driver pushers on the circuit, and his brakeman, Markus Zimmermann, probably the largest, most powerful brakeman pusher. Between the two of them, these guys have combined for great starts.
And obviously size and power means a lot in bobsleigh.
It certainly does, and even just the weight of the athletes alone, because there's a maximum weight per total sled, the weight of the two athletes, that takes weight out of the sled, so they're actually pushing a lighter sled, being larger individuals.
Lange, the gold medalist in the four-man event from Nagano, 4th overall in the World Cup last year. Let's have a look at his run here now. He's in first place at this point.
Lange's driving very smooth, very consistent lines. Nice transition there into Kreisel. Straight out of the Kreisel. Now all he's got to do is, looks like the sled is a little bit tight though. He's not probably not letting it run as free as he'd like. So he was 2/10 up after Kreisel. Now he's only 1/10 up. So he's slowing down a little bit.
Now how can you tell there when you're saying he's not, he looks a little bit tight? How can you tell that the sleigh looks a little bit tight?
An experienced eye can see if the sled is flowing smoothly through a corner, or if the driver is holding onto the ropes a little bit too tight, stopping the sled from flowing smoothly through the corners.
And you spotted that here.
As you see, transition into Kreisel a little bit hard. He probably went a little bit late into Kreisel, losing some speed.
A look again at Christoph Lange, 36-year-old veteran. Christoph Lange of Germany, probably quite pleased with that run. He's in first place, but still to come. Canada's Pierre Lueders, and we'll have him and a whole lot more when we come back. Welcome back to Canada Olympic Park, everybody, for Visa World Cup Bobsleigh. This is the first heat of the first event, the two-man event. Jerry Dobson here along with Chris Laurie. And right now, we are going to watch the man we want to see here. This is Pierre Lueders, 28-year-old from Edmonton, living in Calgary now. Gold in Nagano last year. He's got his brakeman, Ken LeBlanc, ready to go as well, just getting set here. Chris,
there's a good shot at Pierre's lucky undershorts there as well. Back in '93, when he first won his World Cup here in Calgary, his first gold medal, he was wearing the lucky shorts. He's been wearing them ever since. Let's watch Ken LeBlanc here. He's got some of the best technique on a brakeman, you'll see. Nice solid body position. His head is up. Very aggressive. Good stable position.
Now, is the start of Lueders one of the keys to his success?
Pierre Lueders is a very strong driver pusher, and that really helps the initial inertia at the start, getting it out of the hole. And then from there, Ken LeBlanc, who's also very powerful, takes over. Ken LeBlanc is also very aggressive.
And you've competed with LeBlanc as well. He was part of your four-man team a while back.
Ken LeBlanc has been has been a tremendous contributor to my success, or our success as a team. When we were together, we had great chemistry and we had great success. And now he's just bringing that over to Pierre's team. And I think Pierre, at this point, probably couldn't do without him. He's a great guy. He always knows what is needed to make the team work.
And they're working well together right now because they have the fastest time at this point. Pierre Lueders with Ken LeBlanc doing very well here.
Pierre's driving very well. He started off a little bit slower on the start than Lange, but came back and took him by 26/100ths of a second.
And so Pierre Lueders takes over first place here in heat number 1. A great result there for Lueders. Let's have a look here.
Nice smooth transition into corner 8. You see the sled come off perfectly stable as the pressure pushes him out straight down the right wall into Kreisel.
And this is an area here where a lot of them have been having trouble.
Yeah, corner 13 can be tricky at times and push you across, and some of the sleds will hit the wall just before going into the finish corner.
But the end result is Pierre Lueders has the lead here in heat number 1. So that's great news for Canadians watching this event, and I guess he's got to be happy. What's he doing there? Oh, just adjusting his shoe, I guess.
Well, the bobsled spikes are $300 a pair, so you protect them. So we wear these rubber galoshes to protect the spikes in the bottom.
This is France, team number 1, Bruno Migion and Emmanuel Hostache.
Bruno Migion,
he's a veteran, isn't he?
Bruno Migion, one of the last of the small pilots. He only weighs about low 80 kilos.
He's also a veteran, 31 years old. He was 19th overall in the World Cup circuit last year and 9th in the Nagano Olympics. What kind of a start was that for him?
Although Bruno Migion is very small, look at the size of his brakeman. This guy is enormous. Look at the quads. Very good technically, good power, good ground contact.
That has to be the biggest discrepancy between a driver and a brakeman that I've ever seen. They're like Mutt and Jeff.
You see all kinds, actually, but Bruno Migion, he's actually sliding in this race with a set of runners that he bought for myself. He's a very good driver, third at the Olympic Games in 4-man. A little bit of problems there out of corner 8. He steered back a little bit too soon coming off the exit, and the back end slid off.
So he's lost some time. He's 31/100ths off the pace being set by Pierre Lueders here in the first heat.
Nice transition into corner 12 there on the right-hand side.
He's continuing to lose time, however. He was 31/100ths off the pace, then that moved up to 40. Let's see what his total time is. 49/100ths off the pace, putting him in 4th position.
But he's still in the hunt. He's in 4th place. He's 49/100ths out, which is quite a ways away from the leader, but he's still in contention for a medal.
And another look at the run here of Bruno Migion.
Coming off of corner 8, you see he steers back, tries to counter steer, and the back end will slide off the corner. Some people have been having problems with a little bump on the exit of corner 8, which is unusual for that corner.
All right, next up now. This is Switzerland 2. Christian Reich and Urs Eberhard.
Christian Reich has found his place on this circuit. He finished 4th at the Olympic Games in the 2-man, and now he's consistently among the top contenders. You'll watch Christian. He's got a bit of an unorthodox pushing style.
Yeah, you can see how he takes that left arm and swings it around behind him, and then away he goes.
His upper body position is not very stable. He could probably take some of that energy and put it more into pushing the sled. You see a lot of body movement, but he's still a very powerful, very fast runner.
Christian Reich, 12th in the 2-man event here last year, 8th overall in the World Cup circuit. Let's watch his run now. He's already 23/100ths off the pace.
I think Christian, the reason he's 2300ths back now is because his start was a little bit slower than some of the others, but he's been driving very well this week, and I think he's going to be up there. Now he's only 2200ths. That means he's gaining speed on the others, so he's probably going to have a very fast velocity coming out of Kreisel here. Very nice exit of Kreisel.
Pierre Lueders has the fastest time, but Christian Reich is gaining time. Well, he's sort of slowed, packed off just a little bit here now.
He's still in the hunt. He's been driving very smoothly. A little bump there before finish corner.
The time of Christian Reich, good enough to move him into second spot, 23/100ths behind Pierre Lueders. So a good race there for Christian Reich. That was a good one.
Pierre Lueders is well in front right now. It's going to be tough for guys to catch him. You see, out of corner 8, kept the sled very stable. He's been doing that well all week long. He's got a nice straight line through finish corner. And you see as he comes off the finish, he'll duck his head down to just squeeze out 1/100th of a second more. In this sport, every 100th of a second counts.
Now here's an interesting team. This is Canada 3, kind of a new team, I guess. Brian Zarski of Calgary and Jeff Nisley from Saskatchewan, now living in Calgary. Now, is it fair to say that Zarski is maybe one of Canada's up-and-coming young pilots?
Brian Zarski and Jeff Knisley have been working very hard for 3-4 years now. Been working hard together. You can see technically they look very good. However, on the athletic side of things, they're maybe not quite as fast or powerful as some of the other athletes, which is reflected in their start time.
So how do you get that power? Is it a question of just time and practice and practice?
Well, as a bobsledder, not only does it take years to develop as a driver, but also the pushers. Just to get comfortable behind the sled on the ice, the more runs you take, the more comfortable you get, and the more you understand what's required of you.
Young Brian Zarski, 24 years old from Calgary. You can see he's well off the pace there, nearly 3/4 of a second behind.
Well, this is a completely new experience for Brian. You can see he's a little bit choppy, going down the run, a little bit late there into corner 12. That'll cost him a lot of time. As you make little mistakes like that, it adds up. Tenths here, tenths there, adds up to over a second at the bottom.
And the result is he's 21st, 1.15 seconds behind. Now, will young Brian Zarski be pleased with that run? Disappointed? Where do you think he'll stand with that?
In his first World Cup race, I don't think he can expect a lot out of himself. There you can see his transition into 8. It looks fairly smooth, but he comes off. He stays a little bit too high, too late, and it pushes him across to hit that wall.
Brian Zarski, welcome to the world of World Cup bobsleigh. And so here's how it looks after the first heat. Heat number 1, and there's where you want to see Pierre Lueders. He's right on top of the board along with Ken LeBlanc. Good-looking Heat 1 for them. They're in charge, 56.30. As far as the rest of the top 10 and the Canadians are concerned, Zarski and McEachran well off the pace. But that's the result after Heat 1, and we'll have a whole lot more from Calgary when we return. Welcome back to Canada Olympic Park in Calgary and Visa World Cup Bobsleigh. This is Jerry Dobson along with Chris Laurie. We've had the first heat in the 2-man event. Coming up now, the second heat, the final heat in the 4-man event as we take a look at the overall World Cup point standings from last year. Canadians involved in this event, tough international competition as well. Our own Chris Laurie is standing by trackside for a look at the field.
There's a very competitive field here today, Jerry. In most post-Olympic years, a lot of the top drivers will retire, but here we have the 7 top finishers from the Nagano Olympic Games. For the Canadian team, we have young guns Pat O'Donoghue, Brian Zarski in his first 4-man World Cup, and of course Pierre Lueders, who finished only 9th at the Olympic Games. Pierre still feels he has something to prove in the 4-man event. We had a chance to talk to Pierre.
Well, I think the big advantage here in Calgary is obviously I know the track very well, and this is where I learned to drive. Now, in terms of the other tracks, that's one of my goals for the season or in the next 4 years, is to try and win a four-man race in Europe. With the experience of the drivers that are racing in the four-man, it's difficult. And I think though we're making progress in terms of sleds and runners and teammates that will allow us to be competitive and perhaps allow us to achieve our goals.
And here are the results from the first heat. A young team led by Andre Lange from Germany in first place. They're pretty powerful, and they're new, aren't they, Chris?
It's a very close race. That's why you have to watch these drivers always fight for hundreds of seconds, pushing and driving.
And the Canadian results from the first heat as well. So that's the way it stands. That's the setup as we get set for the final heat. And the first team in the final heat will be Canada 2, led by Pat O'Donoghue, along with Guy Sheffer, Jack Pick, and Sherwin Ellis.
You see Pat there, he chooses to start up at the bar, whereas many of the drivers start back at the block.
A wild, frantic scene at the top. That has to be encouraging for these guys.
Yeah, it's pretty motivating when you're standing there and people are cheering for you, but they have to be quiet when you're getting set up, otherwise you can miss your cues. Now let's watch. The thing we want to focus on here is watch the loading into the sled. It's very important that the load is very efficient. These guys, you've got 4 200-pound guys loading into a tiny little sled, and it has to be done very fluently and very effectively, otherwise it can cost you a lot of time.
So we'll watch for the time of Pat O'Donoghue here as he races down this course here at Canada Olympic Park. O'Donoghue took some time off to look after his own private business, a contracting business, so he's just getting back into it.
Pat's setting the pace here in the first heat. He's the first one off. He's tied for 15th place after the first heat. Little trouble out of Kreisel there. Probably let it go a little too high, too late.
The time you see is the combined time, the first run and the second time running for Pat O'Donoghue. There's his total time. That's the time to beat. His first run, 56.12, and a total of 152.
After the first runs, the sleds ranked 15th place to first place will go down. Now watch him through Kreisel here. Watch the exit. He probably runs it a little too long, and then he sees he's too high, too late, and he steers it off too hard across into the wall. That will cost you a lot of time.
Another look here at O'Donoghue.
Good transition into corner 13.
Will he be pleased, do you think, or not at all happy with
I think he's pretty happy with that race. He's comfortably in 15th or 16th at the end of this heat, depending on what happens to the fellow after him.
Canada number 1 now. Pierre Lueders, Ken LeBlanc, Matt Hindle, and Sheridan Baptiste.
Sheridan Baptiste filling in for an injured Marc LeBlanc. Let's watch the loading. These guys are all very experienced. If they're in and the push bars are down before corner 1,
Lueders, of course, won the four-man event here last year, 4th overall in the World Cup in four-man. So we could see a podium finish for this team here today.
you see Pierre's driving. He knows this track very well. He shouldn't have any problems on this track. He's already up by 41/100ths of a second. He's got a lot of cushion. He'll at least maintain his 8th place position.
So we fully expect Pierre Lueders to move up the ranks here in the four-man event. Look at the split time at the bottom of your screen. 41/100ths, he takes the lead.
Now let's watch the exit of Kreisel here. You want to see the sled come down nice and fluent. He probably was a little high at the end. The back end slid off the corner a little, but still running very nicely.
He's dropped a little bit, but still has the lead. It's now 38/100ths. Can he maintain it through the final part of the course? And yes, he does. By 33/100ths, Pierre Lueders is in first place here in the four-man event.
Pierre will comfortably hold his 8th place position. Hopefully he can move up from there depending on what happens to the next 7 sleds. You see him here in Kreisel. He's used the pressure to push him nice straight line through Kreisel. But let's watch the exit. He comes from a bit of a low point. He's a little high on the exit, and the back end of the sled slides off and pushes him towards the right wall. You see a little bit of sideways movement there, and a little bit too early into corner 10. Corner 11, he probably comes off of here. He's a little too high at 11, comes off a little too hard, and you see him just touch the wall there before corner 12, and that'll push him in late.
Pierre Lueders with the fastest combined time, but 7 sleds with faster first run times, and they are still to come. More when we come back. Welcome back to Canada Olympic Park in Calgary. Second heat coverage of the four-man event. This is Switzerland 2, led by Christian Reich, crew members Bruno Eberhardt, Urs Eberhardt, and Thomas Hanschen.
On this push, we want to watch the ground contact. It's very important that they have very quick ground contact.
And what do you think? Did they do what they were supposed to do there with their feet?
They look a little bit slow. In fact, their push was a little slower than some of the other top competitors. I'm actually surprised they're in 5th position considering how slow their start was on the first heat.
Reich tied for 9th in the World Cup circuit last year. He was 7th at the Nagano Olympics, and he's 4/100ths off the pace here in the second run. Again, it's combined times, first run and second run put together. The fastest combined time so far above Christian Reich's time.
Nice smooth line out of corner 8 on the right-hand side going into Kreisel. That'll set him up nicely. You see the face of Cello Roner, his teammate, who was 6th after the first run. Hoping for his teammate
to beat him maybe, or just do well?
I'm sure he wants him to do well. If it's not him, it may as well be a teammate, one or the other.
Reich picking up a little bit of time here, trying to hang on to his position and maybe improve. Oh, a little slip at the end. Will that hurt him at all?
That's pretty natural. He tried cutting it out pretty early out of the finish corner. The pressure just lifted up the back end a little bit. Won't cost him any time, but took it by 6/100ths of a second.
So far, Christian Reich of Switzerland 2 has the fastest time as we watch him again.
Nice out of Kreisel. Nice even line out of Kreisel. Probably a little bit of a slide there. And in the finish corner, you see he tried taking it down a little bit hard, lifts the back end, the pressure pulls him back, but it shouldn't cost him much time.
Pulling a wheelie almost. Christian Reich of Switzerland 2, 7th place from the Nagano Olympics. Up next, these guys will be tough. The defending gold medalist from Nagano in the four-man event. This is Germany 1. Christoph Lange, Sven Ruhr, Thomas Platzer, and Sven Peter are his crewmen. These guys will be tough. This is what it's all about right here.
There's so much depth in the German system that even if one of these guys gets injured, they'll still have very strong starts.
The German team was 2nd here last year. Langen tied with Reich, Christian Reich, for 9th overall in the World Cup circuit. Another look at their start.
You see Langen starts from the back block compared to Pierre Lueders, who starts up at the bar. A lot of the guys are a little bit more comfortable starting from the back. And you know the Germans would have tested this to see how effective it is and how much difference it makes compared to starting at the front.
Will that be determined by the type of course, whether he starts at the back or the front?
No, they will start the same at every course. Although the start gradients can be very different, the start technique will always remain the same.
And they're picking up a little bit of time. 17/100ths is their lead right now.
Langen is a very experienced driver, and he won't make too many really bad mistakes that would cost him more than 17/100ths of a second. In fact, still 16/100ths of a second up. He's having a very good run here. He'll at least hold his position, try and make up some places.
Christoph Langen of Germany. And there's the time, 16/100ths of a second, and a pat on the back of the head. These guys move into first.
55.72, that's a very good run.
And another look at their performance here just seconds ago.
Coming through Kreisel, the sled is very stable coming off that corner. He's down early enough. The sled is stable right down the center, maybe a little bit too far to the left, going into corner 10. Transition into corner 12 along the right side, smooth transition into 12, so it doesn't kill his speed. And nice and smooth early on into 13.
Now, this is Great Britain 1. You may be surprised to learn that Sean Olsen, the 31-year-old, won the bronze medal in Nagano. His teammates, Sean Ward, Andy Lewis, and Eric Sequaller.
He's got a very fast team. Look at the wheels turn on these legs of these guys and his team. They're very fast.
Now, you wouldn't normally think that Great Britain would be a country which would produce a strong bobsleigh team, but we witnessed that bronze in Nagano, so they evidently can do it.
Well, like any country without a bob track in their home country, they go somewhere else. So they're in Europe, and they've got a lot of bob tracks within proximity.
5th in the World Cup standings last year, 6th in Calgary at this event last year, and they've got a good time going.
Sean had a very strong start, but he was only he's a little bit late into that corner. He had a strong start, but he's only 300ths up now. Let's see what he is out of corner 8. Still only 300ths of a second up. That means he's actually slowed down in comparison to Langen. You see Langen watching there. He knows that.
And so, Great Britain, Sean Olsen really has his work cut out for him in the lower part of the course. He's losing
He's down
time.
by 0.05 of a second. Lange could make up the place on him.
Sean Olsen making some mistakes. Lange doesn't look too happy about it, but he's got to be pleased by what just transpired here.
Sean Olsen just fell back out of medal position, quite possibly, depending on what happens with the next sleds.
So what did he do wrong here?
You see him going into corner 6. He probably went in a little bit too late, lets it get too high, sees that he's too high. He pulled it down too soon. The pressure pushed him back late into corner 7, and that will kill your speed. So he probably lost a lot of his speed there going into the bottom section where you saw him losing time.
So some serious mistakes will cost Sean Olsen of Great Britain. He can't be too happy about that. At the other end of the spectrum, Christoph Lange has a big smile on his face. He still leads, but coming up next, the young Andre Lange from Germany as well. This guy can be tough. Does he have it? Who's going to win? We'll see in just a moment. The four-man competition continues, getting down to the crunch here. This is France 1, Bruno Mignon with the second fastest time from the first heat.
You see Max Robert at the back there. He's very quick.
Mignon's team made up of Michel André, Emmanuel Hostache, and Max Robert, as you just mentioned. Now, what kind of a start was that from them?
5:16. He just gave up 0.08 of a second to Lange, and he only has 0.04 of a second cushion to Lange to keep his silver medal position after the first run.
So Bruno Mignon could be in a spot of trouble here, losing a little bit of time. 7th in the World Cup last year, bronze from Nagano, tied with Olsen.
You know Mignon will drive well. He's very experienced, bronze medalist at the Olympic Games. Let's see how quick he is out of corner 8. 0.02 of a second. Nice, smooth, even line through Kreisel as Lange watches. He knows Mignon is going to drive well. The next split here, still 0.02 of a second back. He's got to make up 0.02 of a second on the bottom of Lange.
So Mignon having a good run, but he's got to pick up time. He can't afford to stay the same as Lange shaking his head, looking on nervously. No, he can't do it. 0.03
of a second. He's guaranteed a medal, which he'll be happy about.
But he actually came into this second heat with a faster time than Lange, and he comes out of it with a slower time, so he's lost a position. Another look here.
There's Mignon through Kreisel driving a nice straight line. The pressure is pushing him forward. Acceleration. He's been driving the exit of Kreisel well all week as well. You see him. The sled's very stable, right down the center into corner 10. Coming through corner 11 here, also a very important transition into corner 12. Nice and smooth. Exit of corner 12. The sled is stable.
And the final result there for Bruno Migillon, good enough to keep him on the podium, we believe, but he did lose a little bit of time to Christoph Lange, and he's got a happy crew right there.
Langen's got a shot at the win here, depending on what Lange does. Langen's got a little less experience. It's only his first World Cup race ever. He's got 4 or 5 years experience on Europa Cup. He's learned on all the European tracks. His first time here in Calgary. I've been very impressed with his driving this week.
25-year-old Andre Lange. He has been the phenom here. His first World Cup appearance, as we said. What's he going to do? What kind of a start was that?
5:03. He's just crushed everybody. Beat Lange by 0.05 of a second. Look at now. If you watch this team, obviously they're the best on the hill. So watch what they do, and that's the right way to do it.
Andre Lange, this guy has come from nowhere. Well, maybe not exactly, because he does have some experience, but because Germany is so deep, I guess, he just hasn't had that chance, and now he's getting it.
Sure, he was World Junior Champion. He's been very successful on the Europa Cup circuit, just hasn't been able to crack into the top. He's got a very strong team. Look, he's 0.31 of a second in his first World Cup race. Coming into Kreisel, all he's got to do is maintain his speed at the bottom.
Christoph Lange, look of resignation on his face, perhaps, because Andre Lange is on the verge of blowing everybody out of the water here in the 4-man event. 21/100ths, he has the lead.
Still 0.21 of a second up. Can't give it away at this point. He's got the win.
And he's got it by 10/100ths of a second. Young Andre Lange of Germany has come through here to beat everybody, the veterans, everybody, and look at the joy on their faces.
That is absolutely amazing. I have never seen this happen before in my life, where a guy has come into his first time on a track, first World Cup race, and taken the win against such a competitive field.
Boy, that bodes well for him in the future. Crew members Christoph Heider, Enrico Kuhn, and Lars Behrendt. Boy, are they happy. Now, here's Canada 3, which we haven't shown you yet. Brian Zarski, Russ Kirby, Corey Rokosh, and Jeff Nisley.
This is a very young team. Of course, it's a great experience for them. For every one of them, it's their first World Cup race.
Now, what is the mental attitude when you go into a race under these conditions as opposed to going into a race like you would with medal aspirations?
It is completely different. Your first World Cup race, everything is completely unfamiliar to you. The process, the procedures, the mental, the psychological, the team building, everything is completely new. And what you have to do is you have to take the experience and build on it every race.
Well off the pace, of course, as we expected they would be. He's just here learning.
Well, he knows this track very well, but he's probably driving just a little bit choppy because he has to get more experience on other tracks. His driving ability right now is only to the level of the demands of the Calgary track, because that's all he knows.
Brian Zarski, Canada 3, here at Canada Olympic Park, just looking to finish this race and gain some experience. He has no hope for a podium finish or even a top 10.
Brian Zarski has nothing to be ashamed of. That's a very good race for him. He's been working a long time just to get to the World Cup level, and here he is. Now he's just got to get the experience.
Brian Zarski in Canada 3 finishing in 23rd position. So here's a look at the way it finished. Andre Lange finishing on top, beating fellow countryman Christoph Lange, and the team from France finishing in 3rd position. As far as the Canadian results are concerned, Pierre Lueders on top, O'Donoghue in 16th, and Zarski 23rd. Let's hear from our winner now. Here's Andre Lange.
Auf keinen Fall. Es war der erste Weltcup, das erste Mal auf der Bahn hier in Kanada. Es ist sehr überraschend für uns. Es ist ein gewaltiges Gefühl und wir werden sehen, wie es weitergeht.
He said no, he didn't expect it at all. It was the first time on this track here in Calgary and the first time in a World Cup race at all. And he says it was a good result and he's looking forward, and we'll see how it keeps on going in the future.
When we come back, Pierre Lueders looking for the 2-man win here in Calgary. Welcome back to Calgary, everyone, and the Visa World Cup. Jerry Dobson here, along with Chris Laurie, a winner of 22 medals in the World Cup circuit. We're just about set to go with the two-man final. Here are the results after heat number 1. Canada's Pierre Lueders in first place with the fastest time, and he'll no doubt be trying to hang on to that. Here's the first team in the two-man final. This is France 1, Bruno Mignon.
Bruno Mignon does not find himself in the top 6 in the two-man event very often. He's off to a really good start this year, and I think he's going to be in there at every race.
Bruno Mignon, along with crewman Emmanuel Hostache. A look again at his start.
Look at Emmanuel Hostache. This guy is huge. He pushes that thing like it's a dinky car. The guy is amazing.
Bruno Mignon, the top 5 still to come. Mignon was in 5th place, but we're missing a very important player here.
Gunther Huber, who tied for the gold medal with Canada's Pierre Lueders, he's not in this race. Well, he's not in the hunt right now. He's back in 12th or 13th place. This summer, when he was on his gold medal tour in Italy, they went into Milan to do a little promo, parked the truck, packed the sled in the back of the truck to leave it overnight, but the truck was stolen for its parts, and took the sled with him, and now they can't find his gold medal sled.
So he's had to scramble, and as a result, he's not able to reproduce the times he was doing last year, so he's struggling. Right now, this is Bruno Mignon.
Bruno Mignon, 0.15 of a second. He'll hold at least his 5th place position, and he'll put some pressure on the fellows behind him. And this is Mignon, as usual, driving well. Nice, smooth, clean, straight line through Kreisel. Taking the pressure will push him out of the corner, nice and straight into corner 10.
So he holds on to his 5th place position, the fastest time so far, with 4 more still to go. This is Switzerland 1, 4th after the first run. You saw them shaking hands there. Is that a Swiss tradition before they get into the sled?
Oh, a little pre-run bonding. Let's watch Acklin on this one. A little bent over again on that push, but look at the power. Look at the pull in his legs. Nice, smooth loading.
Guido Acklin, the brakeman for Reto Gucci.
Now, if you watch Acklin in the back there, very good body position, good knee drive, and as he pulls his legs through to propel the sled forward.
Once again, then Reto Gucci, 3rd here last year, 4th fastest time from the first run, trying to move up some spots. Does he have it in him here today?
Well, what I can see is his driving right now is he's really letting the sled go. You see the sled bouncing, running nice and freely through the corners. A little bit of a mistake on the exit of corner 8 there, but he's now corrected his error, coming through Kreisel.
That was Bruno Mignon looking on. He has the fastest time so far, waiting anxiously, though, to see what happens here with Reto Gucci.
He's really letting the sled flow. You can see it vibrating and just running nice and freely through the corners.
Gucci at least holding on to his position, and Mignon knows it. And so Gucci takes over first place.
44 hundredths of a second.
Yeah.
He's got a shot at first prize here. Corner 8, a little bit high in the end there, pushed him across as he hit the wall, but he came back onto the right-hand side into Kreisel.
The 3rd fastest time from heat number 1, Germany won. This is Christoph Lange and his brakeman Marcus Zimmermann. 4th last year at this event. And these guys had the 3rd fastest time by only 1/100th of a second over Reto Gucci.
You see the position of Langen on the push. Let's watch the slow motion. Very similar to Lueders, 2 of the fastest driver pushers on the circuit. Good hip position, good power, and a nice load by Langen.
Langen was 4th at this event last year. He has the 3rd fastest time going into the 2nd run. Can he pick anything up?
He's up by 1/1600th of a second now. He's just got to hang on.
But that will only be good enough to hold him in 3rd spot. He's looking to move up.
That's a very nice exit of corner 8 there. He may make up some time on Gucci there, but he's now only 900ths of a second up on Gucci.
Gucci watching anxiously. Can Langen keep his 3rd place position?
He's driving very smoothly at the bottom.
So far he has that 3rd place position, but not by a whole lot.
It's going to be very close.
Yeah, only 5/100ths. Does he have
1/100th of a second?
Look at that.
He moves in front of Gucci by 1/100th of a second.
So it's Christoph Langen for now, but there's plenty more still to come, and Langen will have to wait. Switzerland 2 and Pierre Lueders still to come. CTV Sportsnet's coverage of the Corel Word Perfect World Bobsleigh Tour is brought to you by Visa. All you need. Welcome back to Canada Olympic Park in Calgary. We're coming down to the crunch of the two-man event. Just two teams to go. Pierre Lueders, but before that, Switzerland 2 with Christian Reich, second fastest run in the first time.
What we want to watch for here is that the brakeman and the driver start pushing the sled at exactly the same time. They did a nice job of it there.
Urs Eberhardt is his brakeman. Do they have it here in the second run?
5:25 start. That's a little bit behind the others. Now, as you see, Lange was only 1/100 of a second in front after his run. You're fighting for every 100th of a second, whether it be in the push or just transitions through corners, in the middle of corners, all the way down the track. You're fighting for hundreds of seconds.
Well, Christian Reich is in a spot of trouble here. He had the second fastest time in the first run, but he's lost some time here.
I think he's going to need to really drive well for him to keep his position here. 1/1600ths of a second. If he can make that up on the bottom, that'll be phenomenal. Lange, I think, is pretty comfortable with the fact that he's got 1/1600ths of a second on him at this point. Reich is driving very well.
So Reich trying to hold on to second spot here with one still to go, and he's very close.
He's reeling him in. We'll see what happens at the bottom. I don't know if he's got enough time.
Yes, no, he doesn't. I thought for a second when I saw the 5, I thought it was enough, but no, he's 5/100ths off the pace, and so Lange has the lead right now.
That was all in the start, too. He gave it to Lange on the start. Reich driving very nicely. See how the sled was just bouncing and running freely down the track.
Okay, it all comes down to this. Pierre Lueders, fastest time after the first run.
Ken LeBlanc, very aggressive at the brakes. He is a tough competitor. Look at how aggressive he is. Right now, his face is red like an overripe tomato.
All right, let's see if they've got it. Pierre Lueders with brakeman Ken LeBlanc. Look at their start again.
Nice, powerful strides by Pierre, one of the strongest driver pushers on the circuit. Pierre at this point is thinking, I just got to get to the top nice and smoothly, get the sled going, and it'll ride its way through at the bottom, and it'll keep the win. 23/100ths of a second lead after the first run.
Pierre Lueders' goal now to hang on to first place. He had the fastest time after the first heat. He's being chased by Christoph Lange and Christian Reich, but does he have it? He looks good right now. Lange looking on anxiously.
Still, 22/100ths of a second. He looks great through Kreisel. He's got speed going into the bottom.
Pierre Lueders going for the win here at Canada Olympic Park. Can he do it? He's looking great here, Chris.
He's got really nice lines. He definitely is not slowing down. 24/100ths through the finish.
And yes, he's done it by 1/4 of a second. Pierre Lueders, a look of dejection on Christoph Lange. Pierre Lueders has won it here in Calgary.
And Canada stays on top in the two-man event.
So another great day for Pierre Lueders here at Canada Olympic Park. Taking it all in stride, however, Lueders and Ken LeBlanc, just another day at the office, but they defend the title here that Lueders won last year. So there you have it. The final standings, Pierre Lueders and Ken LeBlanc. It's great to see that maple leaf on top. Let's head now trackside to Chris Laurie, standing by with our winner.
Thanks, Jerry. What a way to defend that gold medal. Pierre, you're up at 23/100ths of a second after the first heat. What were your thoughts going into the second heat?
Well, I think going into the second heat, we wanted to have a good start and another good run. I would have liked to have increased the gap to the other teams. We fell back a little bit, but that's bobsleigh, and anything can happen, and we're just happy to be on the podium today.
You drove well, and you had a long season ahead of you. Ken, you had a tough season last year, the Olympic year, with some injuries. You seem to be out to a good start this year. What are your thoughts?
Well, I agree. I think last year was pretty disappointing, but this season I'm sure is going to be a little different, and I'm extremely pleased with how things went so far.
A look now at number 6, 7, and 8 and the rest of the Canadians. Zarski in 22nd place and Dave McEachern finishing in 25th. Here's Chris now with Dave.
Hey, Jerry, we're here with Canada's Olympic gold medalist as a brakeman. You've been driving, Dave, you've been driving bobsleds for 1 month. What do you think of your first World Cup race?
It was coming at me pretty fast. I kind of fought off a hamstring injury for the last 7 days, but I had a great brakeman behind me tonight in Jack Pick. It was just a great experience. You know, if I have driven the way I had in the second run, I think, you know, everything's relative. We have only been driving for 34 days and I think 44 runs, and I had no expectations coming in here. I'm so glad Bobsled Canada gave me the opportunity to compete in this, and I think it's going to pay dividends down the road because you can't experience this unless you're in it.
And so congratulations to Pierre Lueders winning here in Calgary, defending his title at Canada Olympic Park, and what a great way to start the 1998-99 season. And of course, we'll have the entire World Cup circuit for you, our next event from Park City, Utah. And also congratulations to young Andre Lange from Germany winning his very first World Cup event. And so that wraps things up from Calgary. For Chris Lowry, this is Jerry Dobson saying so long for now.